Hey y'all, this is another instructional video that'll help you with your week 1's work in math in your work at home packet. So I did an adding and subtracting decimals video. This one is going to be on adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, I'm also going to do a video on adding and subtracting mixed numbers and going from mixed numbers to improper fractions or improper fractions to mixed numbers. So if I was given the problem 2/4 plus 4/8, I should notice that my denominators are not the same. And when I'm adding fractions, my denominators have to be the same. Okay? So in class we talked about finding the LCM, the least common multiple. Okay, finding a common denominator using LCM so that you can add these fractions. So I have 4 and 8, so over to the side I'm going to list the multiples of 4 and 8 to figure out which is the least common between them. Remember, I want the smallest denominator I can get. Some of you may be able to tell without doing this, some of you may not. Okay, so I list my multiples. I have 4, 8, 12, and for 8 I have 8, 16, and quickly I should be able to see that my common denominator is an 8. Okay, so I need to change the denominators for my fractions. I can see that 4/8 is already in 8, so I really don't have to do much to it, but I'm going to stack these just to make it easier to see. Okay, so my common denominator was an 8, so I set this fraction equal to a new fraction with a denominator of 8, and do the same over here. We know 4/8 is equal to 4/8, but if I don't, I know that I can do 8 times 1 to get to 8 and 4 times 1 to get to 4. And then, how do I get from 4 to 8? I multiply by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. If I do it on the bottom, I have to do it on the top. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so now these are my new fractions, and sometimes we would just mark that out because we're done with it. And do 4/8 plus 4/8. And we know that 4 plus 4 is 8. I'm running out of room. And my denominator stays the same as an 8. So I have 8/8, which we know is equal to 1 whole. So my answer to that would have been 8/8 or 1 whole. Okay, I'm going to do another one. So, this time if I had, let's see, let me think of one. 2/6 plus 1/4. And we know that the denominators are not the same, so I have to find the LCM, the least common multiple, to figure out what my common denominator is going to be. So I need to list the multiples of 4 and 6 because those are my two denominators. So 4, 8, 12. Okay, let's see if we can do our 6 now to see if we get something. 6, 12. Okay, I don't need to go any further because my common denominator is 12. That's the smallest one. Now, if I would have kept going, I would have eventually got another one that was common between 4 and 6. But we want the smallest one. So the smallest one is 12. So again, in class we always stacked them because that was easiest for y'all to see. So I have 6, plus 1/4. Now this time, unlike the last problem, I have to change both of the denominators because neither one of them are a 12. So I need to set each fraction equal to a denominator of 12 and figure out what my new equivalent fraction is going to be that has the denominator of 12. So how do I get from 4 to 12? I multiply by 3, and I do the same thing to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. So 1/4 is equal to 3/12. And then how do I get from 6 to 12? I multiply by 2. 6 times 2 is 12. And what I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 2 times 2 is 4. So 4/12 is equal to 2/6. Now I'm ready to add these two. 4 twelfths plus 3 twelfths. So 4 plus 3 is 7. And my denominator stays the same of 12. Can I simplify this? I cannot. There's nothing that I can divide 7 and 12 by. Okay, I can't. There's not a number. I can't do 2. 7 divided by 2 does not work. 12 divided by 2 does work, but it doesn't work with 7. Can't divide by 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. So I cannot simplify it. Okay? So just remember, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, you have to find a common denominator. Okay, so this time I'm going to do a subtraction problem real quick. It's the same thing. You do the exact same thing. You're just subtracting. So, if I have 4/5 minus 1/3. 4/5 minus 1/3. That's not a good problem, y'all. It's not going to work out. Scratch that. Let me do a different problem. This is what it happens when you're making your own problems. I had to think about that for a minute. Let me do a different one. Let me do 4/5 minus 1/10. Because I know that's going to work when I'm subtracting. Subtracting's harder because you have to think about if this fraction's going to end up being bigger or not. Okay, so I notice off the bat that I do not have the same denominator. So I need to go out to the side and do the LCM. I need to find the multiples of 5 and 10. So 5 is 5, 10, 15, 20. And 10 is 10, 20, 30. And I can see that the first one that matches is 10. So that's my LCM. So I'm going to go over here and I have 4/5 minus 1/10. And my new denominator needs to be a 10. So I'm going to set them both equal to a denominator of 10. Obviously 1/10 is equal to 1/10. Or 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times 1 is 1. And then how do I get from 5 to 10? I multiply by 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. Now I'm ready to subtract. You can get rid of that stuff if you want to. So 8/10 minus 1/10. 8 minus 1 is 7. And my denominator stays the same of 7/10. Again, I cannot simplify this. Okay? But say, just for example, that my answer was 6/10. In order to simplify this, I need to divide the top and the bottom by the same number. So I know that 6 and 10 are both even, so I know I can divide them by 2. What I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So my simplified answer would be 3/5. So this is just a refresher on how to add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators. If you still have any questions, you just email me or comment on Google Classroom. Thank you.